So we're gonna do something a little different for this review. It's the first time where I'm reviewing an entire pack. And in this case, it's the OddFellows newest Bodega Boys pack that's available for shipping. We've been waiting on this day for a long time from OddFellows. I visited in May of, I think it was last year, 19. Got the shirt, me and the wife went, awesome store in Brooklyn. Good quality ice cream, loved every bit of it. I think I got a flight of 6 and a soft serve cone. It was amazing. But they finally started shipping. And so this is gonna be mostly uncut, raw. I mean, I have dug into a lot of these just because I need pictures. So please understand that, but also know that I've tasted quite a bit of them, so all of them. So bear with me, we're gonna see where this goes, but I'm gonna give you the whole pack, one review, so you know whether or not to spend your money, your time. Some of you say calories, whatever you wanna call it, I'm here to let you know. So they sent this pretty cool card. They actually sent a lot of stuff, but including a lactate pill for you lactose intolerant folks out there. But this card right here, I know it's gonna be hard to read on this phone, but it basically goes through the 6 flavors and gives their description. So what we're gonna do is, well, and let me back up and rephrase. Some of these pints are super light and some are really heavy, like huge discrepancies. I weighed them all and the lightest pint was 264 grams. And the heaviest one was just over 400, like 420 something. So huge difference there. And I'm sure a lot of that has to go with what's involved in the ice cream, but I haven't, and let me say this, I'll be honest, I knew very little about the Bodega Boys. Deezus and Mero? Yeah, Deezus and Mero, they have their own podcast, late night show. They're comedians, they're out of New York City, so they decided to collab. I think they're actually from the Bronx while OddFellows started in Brooklyn. They just decided to collab because OddFellows is branching out all over the New York City anyways. So keep in mind, this flavor is about them and their snacks. Apparently they're huge on some, I'm gonna call them junk food snacks, the corner store type stuff. So let's dig in. They're gonna temper quickly. So I'm gonna start with what feels like the lightest or softest. So we're gonna start with Host of Cupcakes. If you can't figure this one out, it's a play off Hostess Cupcakes. So it's described as a chocolatey sweet cream with chunks of chocolate cake and whipped cream. So you can see get the cake pieces, pretty little, but you can see the big whipped cream chunks. First thing I notice about the base is it's very light. Not that premium or dense at all. Like, this is melting super quick. A little airy. It's not overly airy, but a little airy. Like, I'm gonna call it, it's below Ben & Jerry's, below Bluebell. Like, it's a step down for sure. There's nothing wrong with the flavor of the base. It's a chocolatey sweet cream, exactly how they described it. It's very light chocolate flavor, just like a Hostess cupcake. Nothing that's gonna overpower, mildly sweet. The chunks of chocolate cake, they really don't do much. I mean, I haven't come across a ton, and B, I mean, you can just tell how small they are. Now, they are soft, but they're so small you really don't get any textural chew from them. It's essentially just like eating the base over and over. And zero difference in chocolate flavor. Maybe a small burst of a richer chocolate, cake-like flavor, but it's minimal. It's indifferent. Of course, as soon as I say that, come across a bigger chunk. Nonetheless, that's still a one-hit wonder. They don't do much for this pint. Now for the whipped cream. While it's not a game changer, it does make a difference in the flavor of this pint. There are bigger pockets of it compared to the cake, and it's not really a swirl, but it is gooier. Like when you take a spoonful of it, it's kind of just like a big gooiness that melts away in your mouth. As far as flavor, it's pretty similar to a cream. It's not like this huge burst of flavor, but it's very sweet, much like the cream filling of a Hostess cupcake. So I have to give them credit on that. I'd say it's average. I mean, it is reminiscent of a Hostess cupcake, but it's nothing special. It's just a light chocolate base. The chocolate cake is definitely lacking, and the chunks are too small. It doesn't do anything for the pint. The cream helps it out a little bit, but it still needs quite a bit of work. 5.5 out of 10. Bodega Counter Crunch. This one is the pint that definitely had the most mix-ins. So we have a light caramel sweet cream base. Then there's chocolate covered pretzels, butter crunch cookies, and honey roasted peanuts. Nailed the base according to the description. It's definitely heavy on the sweet cream. Oh, and I forgot to mention it. Most of these bases, all except one, which is a sorbet, are custard. So they have the egg yolks mixed in, which I'm a fan of. I really enjoy custard. This one definitely has a much better texture than the host of cupcakes. It's denser, it's creamier, very similar to, I'm gonna say, Ample Hills type texture. Back to the flavor, it's just that, heavy on the sweet cream, light caramel. So you do get a small sweet caramel flavor that's just a tiny bit buttery. Since the chocolate covered pretzels are on top, let's tackle them first. Definitely on the soggy side and chewier because as you can tell, a lot of that chocolate shell is broken, like it's not covering the pretzel. So of course it's gonna be a little soggy. It's not horrible, just a chewier pretzel. As far as flavor, it's exactly what it is. You get a, I'm gonna say sort of a darker chocolate flavor, slightly sweet, and the pretzel flavor actually stands its own against the light caramel base. I think it was a smart move having the light caramel so it doesn't overpower. Hopefully you've eaten honey roasted peanuts before. And these are just that. Some whole, some halved. They maintain their chew very nicely. It's like eating a raw peanut. On top of that, they have the same sugary, slightly gritty coating with a honey sweetness that finishes things off, and it's sweeter than the base. So it's a nice, adds a nice 1-2 punch of sweetness. The least abundant mix-in were the butter crunch cookies. You can see one hiding right here in the ice cream, and I've also come across a fairly large chunk. And they're probably the best mix-in of this pint. Pretty dense. I probably shouldn't say dense, they're thick. Dense enough, but very soft and chewy. And the flavor is just like a butter cookie. Sweet, but heavy on the butter. Much more buttery than the base. Now, they call them crunch cookies. I wouldn't say they actually have a crunch. They're more soft, and maybe they got soft from soaking in the ice cream. Nonetheless, great mix-in. So it's easily the densest of mix-ins compared to the other 5 pints of the pack. And I honestly can't complain too much about the mix-ins. I mean, maybe some were softer than they should be or some were lacking, but overall, this flavor works well. Definitely way better than a host of cupcakes. 7 out of 10. Next up is bacon, egg, and cheese. Now, I don't know personally, but apparently these guys, the Bodega boys, make one heck of a bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich. I love a good bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich. I actually haven't had one in quite a while now that I think of it. But this one is very intriguing. So we've got a smoked sweet cream, then we have candied bacon, a cheddared whipped cream, and candied egg yolks. The consistency of this base is very similar to Bodega Counter Crunch. Definitely can tell it's got a little custardy vibe going on here. Creamy, not overly dense though. I mean, I'm still gonna say Ample Hills' level, maybe a little under that. It's premium, but it definitely could be denser. So the sweet cream base is described as being smoky. It's a smoked sweet cream. That's pushing it. I mean, it's definitely a sweet cream, and I can tell there's a difference to it. It does finish a little smoky, but it's not stand outish. If I didn't know better, I probably wouldn't be able to identify it. Nonetheless, it is a little different than your typical sweet cream. Now the big yellow spots here, you might be wondering, is that the cheddar whipped cream or the candied egg yolks? And that's the candied egg yolks, which I'm a fan of runny eggs. I basically take an egg any way you make it, although I prefer runny. But it's kind of freaking me out a little bit because it's got that same, like, I'm gonna call it like, I can't think of the term. It's like a halfway cooked egg. Like it's like not runny, but it's not obviously cooked, like where it's, you know, I'm gonna say a little dry, like a hard-boiled egg. This is like right in the middle, so it's just like, it's gooey, and it's kind of just off-putting because you're thinking of like it's an actual egg yolk. Nonetheless, does it taste like egg yolk? No. Is it candied? Yes, very sweet and sugary. Now dancing around the pint, you can see little, I'm gonna call them bacon bits. And they're definitely on the crispier side of things, which I really like. I want it to have that little grittiness to it, and it does. A, because it's candied, and B, because it's cooked bacon. But I'm actually, while it is a little sweet, I'm actually getting more smokiness from this than the base. So that is a very good thing for this ice cream. I'm struggling to find some of the cheddar whipped cream, which makes sense because I'm sure that's an extremely tough mix in to pull off. I came across a much bigger patch, and it still was very small, than what I'm about to try to show you earlier in the pint. But you can see, it's so tough to see, especially on this camera that's hard to focus. But right here, there's just the slightest, a very light orange tint. And that's basically your cheddar whipped cream. So light, so small, it's not even noticeable. If you didn't see it, you wouldn't even know it's there. So no textural purpose, no flavor purpose. Maybe I got a bum pint, but it's severely lacking. I came across 2 itty bitty spots. I love the concept. I'm down for anything very unique, extremely unique. This just doesn't do much for me. It's basically sweet cream based. The egg yolks are just, they're sugar and they're kind of off-putting texture. I find myself just digging for the bacon, and thankfully there was a lot of that. And it adds some smokiness, but it's basically just like eating bacon in a sweet cream ice cream. Average at best. 6 out of 10. What I'm very excited for, budget breakfast. Coffee ice cream has grown on me tremendously. And basically, this is a coffee ice cream. Well, it's more like a sweet cream ice cream with coffee soil, but it's definitely enough coffee in there to give it a coffee flavor. And then we have honey bun chunks. A little lighter base than the previous 2, which have been the densest so far, but it's still not as light as Host of Cupcakes. Somewhere in between. And you can see it's peppered with basically, they call it soft coffee soil, but it's essentially, it's gotta be like coffee grounds, and it's a very strong coffee flavor. I love it, especially mixed with the cream. Awesome flavor. Now, you can see at the very bottom here, there's a honey bun chunk. And it's probably not texturally like what you're thinking of a honey bun in the, cheap plastic wrapper. This is more similar to a cake texture. Maybe the honey bun just got ultra soft from sitting in the ice cream, but it's almost mushy soft, quite chewy. For flavor, it's great though. Strong honey. And believe it or not, there's not that much I'm gonna call it artificialness to it. It's really just a straight honey flavor. Very sweet, but there's not much of that. And I like it because you're not getting a lot of that sugary glaze on the honey bun. You're just getting straight honey. Mixed with the coffee, I think it works pretty well. But once again, we're just really lacking on the mixing component. Coffee flavor's great, but it's also a fairly light ice cream. Now, I'm gonna put it above, what was it? Bacon, egg, and cheese, just because I like the flavor more. It still needs a lot of work though. 6.5 out of 10. What I'm least excited for, but they absolutely nailed, is sweet tea and lemonade. So basically we have 2 sorbets, half sweet tea and half lemonade sorbet. Obviously the sweet tea being the darker, the lemonade's the light. And if you follow Eats Gone Wild, Josh, first of all, you should be following him if you're not. Makes his own ice cream, trying to get him to ship. We all need to bug him about that. We need to get him on the feed. He reviewed this whole pack as well. Probably, it was interesting. He didn't rate them. Gave great details though. And he described this, and I'm gonna take it from him, so, because he nailed it. There's really only one way to describe it. A Lipton tea, straight from the grocery store, or convenience store, corner store, whatever you want to call it. We sometimes call them quickies down here in the South. But you get the lemonade sorbet. Almost reminds me of those, Minute Maid lemon ices or whatever you call those things. Well, the sweet tea is sweet tea. Not as sweet as our Southerners make it, but it's definitely a sweet sorbet. And it tastes exactly like tea. Mixed together, gives you that Lipton iced tea. Lipton sweet tea, whatever. If you aren't aware of that, it's basically a lemon iced tea. Fabulous. Almost like thirst quenching. Just keeps you going back for more. So, I mean, I'm not a fan of sorbets. It is what it is. I just enjoy the full fat, the ice cream, the creaminess. This has a fairly good texture for a sorbet. You can see it's tempering fine. My spoon, easily runs through it. And I'm impressed. I mean, I don't like the fact that I'm just eating tea over and over and over, but that's probably smart not adding a mixing. Like, let it be, let it do its thing. Some people are absolutely going to love this. As for me, it's run of the mill, so 6.5 out of 10. Last and certainly not least, Chico sticks. So, believe it or not, I've never had a Chico stick in my life. So, I even had to look at the description. I knew it was peanut butter, and I can't find it on my sheet here. Where the heck is it? Oh, right here. This guy talking right here. It's just peanut butter ice cream with shaved coconut. I would have had zero idea it had shaved coconut in it. And spoiler alert, this is the best flavor in the pack. Obviously, as Family Food Dude says, your mileage may vary because you're just going to depend heavily on the coconut for you. But we have a base that's similar to, what was it? Bacon, egg, and cheese. And was it Bodega Counter Crunch? It's pretty dense. Probably the densest. This one was probably the heaviest of the pints I weighed. I can't remember. But it's definitely got to be due to the peanut butter. However, it's not your typical peanut butter like I generally enjoy. It's a candy peanut butter. So like anything candy, think of like a peanut butter bar of some sort. It's definitely on the sweeter side of things. A little bit of salt, but it's certainly a candied, sweeter peanut butter flavor. So it kind of puts you in that junk food candy set of mind. Now it's extremely hard to see, but the shaved coconut, it's like an off like pink color. There's some here. There's a patch of it right there, kind of where that hole is. Wish I could get this to focus. Anyway, working on that, by the way. Got a surprise coming. It's got a pretty good texture. Like I said, it's not like your shreds of coconut. This is more like a candy. If you ever had those peanut butter bars, maybe you got them at Halloween, or maybe you just eat them as is. I don't know. I hadn't had them since I was a kid. But it's kind of like a rectangular bar, and it's like, I'm going to call it like gray in color, but it's got the black stripes down it. I think it's just called a peanut butter bar. Anyways, in the middle, it's kind of airy, crunchy. That's more of what this is. It's very similar texture to that bar if you were to bite into it. Just Google peanut butter bar. Bite into that. That's the texture you get here. Small pockets of it, but very flavorful. And I can't remember ever having the combination of peanut butter and coconut, but I really like it. Got a bigger chunk there. It's a nice little crisp. You know that candy, like a Butterfinger. That's what I'm looking for. It's like similar like a Butterfinger. The feeling of that gets all stuck in your teeth. Anyway, this one is solely going to depend on probably if you like coconut. Most people probably like peanut butter unless they're allergic. Easily my favorite of the pack. Still overall not a great ice cream from OddFellows though. I mean, this gets a 7.5 out of 10. But so let's talk about the quality here. So when I visited, and if you follow Family Food, you probably saw his post too. He was highly disappointed. He was definitely more disappointed than I am. I rank these, some of them pretty average. That's 6.5. average in my book. 7.5 is borderline scoopable again, but still, I mean, maybe slightly above average. Bottom line is, he was highly disappointed. I wasn't as disappointed. He basically had something on his story along the lines of, you know, I visited, he's probably been twice. I don't know, he's been a couple times in New York City. I've only been once, but he said he would visit anytime he goes. And I would agree. If I go again, I will stop by OddFellows. Absolutely love the shop. I just remember the density, the creaminess, the premiumness being a lot better in the shop, which is probably the case. You know, I don't know how they pack these, but maybe they're, you know, this is their first round of doing this. Maybe they've suffered a little bit in getting them, you know, to the entire nation. Nonetheless, it's a fun concept of the Bodega Boys. I enjoyed them all. Glad I bought it. I probably can't recommend you buying it. I mean, I have a job here to do. I'm here to let you know. But they do have a pick your pints option up right now. So if you aren't interested in this, which this is only available for a little while longer. So if you want these junk food, unique type items, you better jump on it. Like I said, though, if you want, they have a bestseller pack that's out. They create your own, you know, pick your pints here and there, more of their, I'm gonna say standard type flavors. Then go for that. However, if you're on the border of ordering those, I say go do it because they are doing it for a good cause. A portion of all sales from the Bodega Capsule will be donated to the Legal Aid Society, which helps New Yorkers living in poverty afford legal assistance. So your money is going somewhere good. You get OddFellows, you know, first round of shipping. However, it's solely going to depend on how many of these pints you like. If you don't like coconut, you're probably not going to buy. That's one pint you don't like. You know, like bacon, egg, and cheese, definitely a unique concept. Do you like sorbets? I'm not a huge fan. Obviously had to try it, nailed the flavor, but your mileage is going to vary. This was fun, depending on how many companies keep reaching out wanting to get reviewed. You know, we may consider doing this, knocking out whole packs at a time, especially if it's very limited. You know, you have a week or two to decide, do you want this ice cream? You know, I'll throw it up on the feed, give ratings for all 6, you decide, and you'll be able to get it in that little window. Because if I review these one by one, like by the time I do 6 pints, you're looking at 2 or 3 week turnaround. Not to mention all the other stuff that's coming in through the mail that's getting put on the back burner. Cafe Pana, Salt and Straw, you name it. So let me know if you like this. I mean, I know it was lengthy. I get carried away. I love what I do. I have a passion for this. Thanks for the tea, OddFellows. I miss you. Hope I get to visit again. But thanks for watching. If you made it this far, let me know what you think, and we'll do it again soon.